The first thing the alien cadets learned about Earth was that rain could kill you. The second thing they learned was that the human girl apparently didn't know that. Emergency shelter! Now! The instructor's voice cracked through the communication channel as the training shuttle descended through a wall of black clouds. Inside the transport, 24 alien cadets were strapped into their seats, staring at the storm outside. Lightning crawled across the clouds in enormous blue veins. The shuttle shook violently. Warning lights flashed across the cabin. A temperature alarm screamed. Then the artificial gravity flickered. Several cadets cried out. One of the taller reptilian recruits grabbed both sides of his harness. "That's not normal." "Of course it isn't normal," another cadet shouted. "This planet is classified as a death world." At the back of the cabin, one person remained completely still. A young human woman sat beside the emergency hatch. She had dark brown hair tied into a loose knot, a faded field jacket, old boots, and a battered canvas pack. Unlike almost every other cadet, she wasn't staring at the instruments. She was staring through the window. The storm fascinated her. The instructor noticed. "Cadet?" She looked over. "Yes, Commander? You seem unusually calm." The girl glanced outside again. "Is that a problem?" A few cadets exchanged nervous looks. The commander frowned. "Cadet Mara Vance, you understand that we're descending into a Category 9 atmospheric hazard?" Mara nodded. "Yes. You understand that wind speeds below the cloud shelf have already exceeded 140 kilometers per hour?" "Yes. Electrical discharge is occurring less than 2 kilometers from our flight path." Mara looked outside. "That's actually pretty." Nobody laughed. The commander stared at her. Mara smiled. "Where I'm from, this is nice weather." Silence. Then one cadet laughed. It wasn't a confident laugh. It was the kind of laugh people made when they were uncomfortable and desperately needed someone else to admit that what they were seeing was terrifying. "You can't be serious," said the blue-skinned cadet beside her. Mara looked at him. "What? You call this nice weather?" "Yeah." The cadet pointed toward the window. "That cloud just swallowed an entire mountain." Mara shrugged. "Big storm." "Big storm?" "Yeah." The shuttle dropped 20 meters. Everyone screamed. Mara simply tightened her seat belt. The commander stared at her for several seconds. Then he looked toward the pilots. "Begin final descent." The shuttle plunged into the storm. And nobody aboard realized that the real survival exercise hadn't even started. The planet below was called Vera. The Galactic Coalition used it for one purpose: training. Vera had been selected because almost nothing about it was forgiving. Its atmosphere was unstable. Its mountains shifted during heavy rainfall. Its forests grew over terrain filled with sinkholes, underground rivers, poisonous plants, and territorial predators. Temperatures could change by 30 degrees in a single day. Electronic equipment frequently malfunctioned because of mineral-rich dust suspended in the atmosphere. And every year, cadets arrived believing advanced technology had made them superior to nature. Every year, Vera corrected that belief. The shuttle landed hard. The cargo doors opened. Rain exploded into the cabin. Several cadets immediately activated their environmental shields. One cadet looked at his wrist display. "Acid concentration rising." Another checked his suit. "Humidity 98%. A third shouted, "My thermal regulator is overheating." Commander Rask stepped onto the ramp. Welcome to Vera. The cadets stared at him. Your objective is simple. Reach Outpost 7 within 48 hours. He pointed toward the forest. No orbital assistance. No Academy transport. No automated navigation. You will carry everything you need. The cadets looked toward the storm. Rask continued. And one more thing. He smiled with a humor. Your equipment will be deliberately limited. Groans spread through the group. Mara stepped onto the ramp. Rain immediately soaked her hair. She looked up. The storm clouds rolled overhead. She inhaled deeply. Petrichor. The alien cadet beside her stared. What? Nothing. She smiled. Just smells like home. The first mistake happened 12 minutes later. Commander Rask divided the cadets into 3 groups. Each group received a map, a damaged emergency beacon, and a route marker. The fastest route to Outpost 7 went directly through a valley. Mara studied the map. Then she looked at the sky. Then she looked at the trees. Then back at the map. No! The cadet beside her looked confused. No what? We shouldn't go through the valley. The cadet's name was Tarek. He was a 6-foot-tall insectoid with 4 arms and an engineering degree. He stared at the map. The Academy selected this route. I know. The route is verified. I know. So why are you saying no? Mara pointed toward the western horizon. Because that cloud is moving the wrong way. Tarek looked. It is moving east. Exactly. Is that bad? Not by itself. Mara crouched. She touched the muddy ground. Then she looked at the trees. The wind is coming from the east. Tarek waited. Mara stood. Storm is going to bounce off the ridge and turn north. Tarek checked his weather sensor. It predicts southeast. Mara smiled. Your sensor is looking at the atmosphere. She pointed toward the forest. I'm looking at what the atmosphere is doing to everything else. Tarek didn't understand. Mara didn't have time to explain. She started walking west. Where are you going? Around. That's 2 kilometers longer. Yep. Why? Because I don't want to be standing in a valley when 6,000 tons of water decide to come downhill. Tarek stared after her, then laughed. That's absurd. Mara continued walking. Probably. He looked at the other cadets, then at the valley, then at Mara. Wait. He followed. The others didn't. Most of the cadets trusted the Academy map. For 20 minutes, the 3 groups moved in different directions. Mara's group climbed through dense vegetation. The terrain became increasingly difficult. Roots tangled around their boots. Rainwater ran down the slope. Tarek complained constantly. This is inefficient. Mara climbed over a fallen tree. Yep. We are wasting energy. Yep. We are losing time. Yep. Do you have any response besides yes? Not really. Tarek sighed. Then the mountain made the decision for them. A deep rumble rolled across the forest. Everyone stopped. The sound grew louder. Then the valley below disappeared. A wall of mud, water, rocks, and broken trees swept through it. The entire slope seemed to move. Tarek's mouth fell open. The Academy route marker vanished beneath the landslide. Nobody spoke. Mara watched the destruction. Tarek slowly turned toward her. How did you know? I didn't. You said it would happen. I said I didn't want to be there if it did. You were right. Mara shrugged. That's not the same thing. Tarek stared at the ruined valley. For the first time, he understood something important. Mara wasn't fearless. She simply wasn't interested in pretending that fear could make a bad situation better. By sunset, the cadets had traveled only 6 kilometers. Their original schedule called for 12. Everyone was exhausted. One cadet had fallen twice. Another had nearly slipped down a ravine. 3 environmental suits had developed moisture problems. The alien cadets began looking toward Mara whenever something went wrong. She noticed. She didn't like it. Stop doing that! Tarek blinked. Doing what? Looking at me. You keep knowing things. I don't know things. You predicted the landslide. I noticed water. You predicted the storm. I noticed clouds. You predicted the route would be dangerous. I noticed the valley. Tarek frowned. Then what do you actually know? Mara stopped. She looked at him. I know how to pay attention. That answer stayed with him. They continued. Darkness arrived quickly. The forest changed after sunset. During daylight, it had looked wet and hostile. At night, it became silent. Too silent. Mara stopped walking. Everyone behind her stopped too. Tarek whispered. What? Mara raised one finger. Listen. They listened. Nothing. No insects. No birds. No wind. No movement. Tarek's 4 eyes scanned the darkness. Is that good? No. Why? Because we were hearing insects 30 seconds ago. Everyone became still. Mara slowly removed her pack. Lights off. What? Turn them off. Tarek obeyed. One by one, the lights disappeared. Darkness swallowed them. A minute passed. Then something moved beyond the trees. Not a branch. Not an animal. Something large. Very large. The forest bent around it. Mara whispered. Nobody move. One cadet's breathing became rapid. Another whispered. What is that? Mara didn't answer. The sound came closer. Heavy. Slow. Deliberate. Crack. A tree snapped. Something breathed. The sound was deep enough to vibrate through the ground. Tarek's hand moved toward his weapon. Mara caught his wrist. No. His eyes widened. It could attack. It hasn't. What if it does? Then we'll deal with it. Another tree broke. The creature passed behind them. They couldn't see it. Only its shadow moved between the trees. Then it disappeared. Nobody moved for another full minute. Finally, Tarek whispered, Was that part of the training? Mara shook her head. I don't think so. The cadets didn't sleep. They built a shelter beneath a rock overhang. Mara showed them how to position their bodies away from the wind. She placed packs against gaps. She collected dry bark from inside fallen trees. She built a tiny fire. The alien stared at it. Tarek watched the flames. Why does that work? Heat. I know what fire does. Then why did you ask? He looked offended. I meant, why doesn't the rain extinguish it? Mara pointed toward the shelter roof. Because we made the rain miss. Tarek stared at the shelter. Then at Mara. You humans build things from dead plants. Sometimes. And use them to survive storms. Sometimes. And you consider this recreational? Mara smiled. Sometimes. Tarek shook his head. Your species is strange. Mara looked into the fire. So I've been told. At 3:17 in the morning, the emergency beacon activated. Everyone woke instantly. A transmission came through. Group 3 to command. We have a medical emergency. Mara stood. What happened? Static. Then a voice. Cadet injured. Suspected fracture. The signal vanished. Tarek looked toward Mara. We have to help. Yes. They packed immediately. Mara led them toward the signal. The rain had returned. Harder than before. The trail was gone. They had to climb. Halfway down a slope, Mara stopped. Wait. Tarek almost collided with her. What? She pointed at the ground. There were footprints. Huge ones. Fresh. Tarek stared. Those aren't ours. No. Same creature? Mara nodded. Probably. Then shouldn't we turn around? Mara looked toward the emergency signal. No. Tarek hesitated. Why? Because someone needs help. She continued walking. Tarek followed. They found Group 3 near a collapsed ravine. 5 cadets were trapped on the opposite side. One had a badly injured leg. Their equipment was scattered everywhere. The group leader looked embarrassed when Mara arrived. You came. Yep. How? Walking. He almost laughed. Then winced. Can you help him? Mara examined the injured cadet. Probably. She stabilized the leg. The cadet stared at her. You aren't a medic. No. Then why are you doing this? Because you need help. That was all. They spent the next hour moving the injured cadet. Then the ground shook. Everyone froze. Mara looked upward. Move! The group leader shouted. Why? Because that slope is coming down. They moved. 10 seconds later, rocks crashed onto the place where they had been standing. Tarek stared at Mara. She was breathing heavily. Mud covered her face. But she smiled. Still nice weather. This time, everyone laughed. Morning came with blue skies. For exactly 11 minutes. Then Mara saw the clouds. Her smile disappeared. Tarek. He looked up. What? How fast can everyone move? Why? Answer me. Fast. Good. Mara pointed toward the eastern ridge. We need high ground. The others followed her gaze. The sky looked beautiful. White clouds. Golden sunlight. Nothing threatening. Tarek frowned. I don't see anything. That's the problem. What? Mara pointed toward the birds. They were flying away. All of them. In the same direction. Why are they leaving? Mara tightened her backpack. Because they know something we don't. The wind changed. A distant roar followed. Not thunder. Something deeper. The Academy monitoring station suddenly came alive. Commander Rask stared at the weather screen. What's happening? An analyst looked pale. Atmospheric pressure is dropping. How fast? Too fast. The commander stared at the map. Where are the cadets? Sector 4. Rask froze. That's impossible. Sir? The storm wasn't supposed to reach Sector 4. The analyst looked at him. It isn't the storm. A second alarm activated. Seismic disturbance detected. Rask's expression changed. How large? The analyst swallowed. Large enough to trigger a regional evacuation. On the mountain, Mara felt the vibration. She didn't need a scanner. The ground told her. Run! Nobody questioned her. They climbed. The forest began shaking. Trees swayed without wind. Birds disappeared from the sky. The air smelled of sulfur and wet stone. Tarek shouted, "What is happening?" Mara shouted back, "Earthquake!" The ground suddenly dropped. Several cadets fell. Mara grabbed one by the arm. "Keep moving!" A crack opened across the slope. Then another. The mountain groaned. A massive section of rock broke loose. The cadets ran. They reached the ridge just as the slope collapsed behind them. For several minutes, nobody spoke. Then Tarek began laughing. Not because it was funny, because he was alive. Mara sat down. She was exhausted. Tarek looked at her. "You called that nice weather too?" Mara wiped mud from her cheek. "No." He waited. She smiled. "That was getting annoying." Everyone laughed. The academy finally regained contact. Commander Rask's voice came through their damaged communicators. "Cadets, respond." Tarek grabbed the transmitter. "Group 3 responding. Location?" Tarek looked at Mara. She pointed. He gave the coordinates. Silence. Then Rask asked, "How did you get there?" Tarek looked at Mara again. "She led us." The commander paused. "Cadet Vance?" Mara took the communicator. "Yes, sir." "Are all cadets accounted for?" 23. Rask frowned. 23. Mara looked around. One cadet was missing. She immediately stood. "Where's Jalen?" Everyone looked around. Nobody knew. Mara closed her eyes. She listened. There. A faint sound. 3 knocks. Then silence. Mara pointed toward a narrow canyon. "He's there." Tarek looked. "You heard that?" "Yes." "How?" 3 knocks. "I didn't hear anything." "You weren't listening." Mara ran. The others followed. They found Jalen trapped beneath a fallen tree. He was alive. Barely. They freed him. Then the rescue shuttle arrived. As the cadets boarded, Commander Rask stepped down the ramp. He looked at the muddy, exhausted group. Then at Mara. "Cadet Vance." "Sir, you understand you were not authorized to leave your assigned route." "Yes, sir." "You ignored Academy navigation." "Yes, sir." "You entered an unmonitored sector." "Yes, sir." "You crossed an active geological hazard." Mara hesitated. "Technically, the hazard crossed us." Tarek snorted. Rask stared at her. Then, unexpectedly, smiled. "Fair enough." The debriefing lasted 4 hours. Every decision was reviewed. Every route was analyzed. Every failure was documented. The Academy discovered something disturbing. The systems had failed repeatedly. The maps had become inaccurate. The automated weather models had missed the pressure change. The emergency beacon had malfunctioned. The drones had lost the team. But Mara had continued functioning. Not because she had better technology. Because she had less dependence on it. One instructor asked, "Where did you receive advanced wilderness training?" Mara looked confused. "I didn't." "You must have." "No." "You demonstrated navigation without instruments." "My dad taught me." "Environmental prediction?" "My mom." "Emergency shelter construction?" "My dad." "Animal behavior?" "Both." The instructor stared. Who were your parents? Mara smiled. My mom was a biology teacher. And your father? Forest ranger. The instructor looked at the report. How long did you train? Mara thought. I don't know. 5 years? She shook her head. Since I was little. The room became quiet. Why? Mara shrugged. Because my parents thought children should know what to do if something goes wrong. The instructor leaned back. Most coalition worlds protect children from dangerous environments. Mara nodded. That makes sense. Then why did your parents expose you to them? Mara smiled. They didn't expose me to danger. She paused. They taught me how to respect it. The footage from Vera was shown to the Academy's senior council. They watched Mara touch the soil. They watched her reject the valley route. They watched her build shelter. They watched her stop the group from confronting the predator. They watched her recognize the earthquake. They watched her return for the injured cadets. And finally, they watched the moment she found Jalen beneath a fallen tree. One officer shook his head. She was lucky. Commander Rask disagreed. No. Sir? Luck explains one decision. He pointed at the screen. Not 30. Another officer leaned forward. What makes humans like this? Rask looked at the frozen image of Mara standing in the rain. I don't think humans are like this. What do you mean? I think humans are taught to become like this. Weeks later, Mara returned to the academy. The cadets, who had laughed at her on the shuttle, now followed her through the halls. Tarek had become her closest friend. He had also developed an annoying habit. Whenever the weather changed, he looked at Mara. One afternoon, clouds gathered over the academy. Tarek stared at the sky. Mara. She looked up. Yes? Is this nice weather? Mara studied the clouds. No. Tarek relaxed. Good. She smiled. It's beautiful weather. He frowned. What's the difference? Mara picked up her bag. Nice weather makes you comfortable. She started walking. Beautiful weather makes you pay attention. Tarek followed. That doesn't make sense. Mara smiled. It will. Graduation day arrived 3 months later. Hundreds of cadets filled the academy hall. Commander Rask stood at the podium. He spoke about discipline. He spoke about technology. He spoke about duty. Then he spoke about survival. Survival, he said, is not the ability to defeat nature. The hall became quiet. It is the ability to understand when nature is telling you that you are wrong. He turned. Mara stood among the graduating cadets. You cannot intimidate a storm. You cannot negotiate with an avalanche. You cannot outrank gravity. You cannot command the wilderness. He paused. But you can learn. Tarek looked toward Mara. She was smiling. Commander Rask continued. Cadet Vance taught this academy something that our simulations never could. Mara looked uncomfortable. Rask smiled. She taught us that survival isn't about being fearless. The room listened. It is about remaining useful while you are afraid. Applause filled the hall. Mara lowered her eyes. She wasn't interested in applause. She had never been. She had simply done what her parents had taught her. Pay attention. Stay calm. Help others. And never assume the world owes you an easy path. Years later, the Coalition Academy changed its survival curriculum. Technology remained. Advanced navigation remained. Drones remained. Environmental armor became even better. But something else was added. Every cadet was required to spend time without technology. No sensors. No automated maps. No artificial assistants. Just themselves. Their instructors called it the Vance principle. The principle was simple. When technology fails, your training remains. But Mara always disagreed with that wording. During one lecture, a young cadet asked her, "So what happens when everything fails?" Mara smiled. "Everything doesn't fail." The cadet frowned. "What do you mean?" "You still have your eyes." She raised one finger. "Your ears." Another finger. "Your hands." Another. "Your memory." Another. "And the person standing beside you." The cadet looked confused. "That's enough?" Mara looked through the window. Rain had begun falling outside. The cadets watched nervously. Mara smiled. "Usually." A young alien recruit stared at the storm. "That looks dangerous." Mara laughed softly. "It probably is." The recruit swallowed. "Then why are you smiling?" Mara looked at the rain. Because somewhere in Montana, years earlier, a little girl had stood beside her father during a storm. She had complained about the cold. Her father had tightened her jacket. She had complained about the rain. He had handed her a pair of gloves. She had asked why they couldn't simply go home. He had looked toward the mountains and said something she never forgot. "You don't learn what you're capable of when everything goes right." Mara looked back at the cadets. "You learn when the weather turns." Thunder rolled across the sky. The aliens flinched. Mara didn't. She opened the door. Cold rain blew into the hallway. Tarek, now an instructor himself, stared at her. "You're not seriously going outside." Mara stepped into the rain. "Why not?" "Because it's raining." She turned around. Her smile was exactly the same as it had been on that first shuttle descending toward Vera. "Nice weather." Tarek shook his head. The cadets followed her, one by one. Not because they weren't afraid. They were. They simply understood something now. Fear was information. Panic was a choice. And the universe was far too large to survive by pretending dangerous things weren't dangerous. You survive by noticing, by adapting, by helping the person beside you. And sometimes, when the storm looked impossible, you simply took one more step forward. Because humanity had never conquered Earth. Humans had done something much harder. They had learned to live with it. And that was why, when the rest of the galaxy looked at a storm and saw a reason to run, the girl from the Deathworld looked up at the sky, smiled, and called it nice weather.